Nestled in the meanders of the magnificent Mekong, the discreet and modest country that is Laos long remained landlocked, as if isolated from the tumults of modernity. Today it opens up to travelers who marvel at its magic and offers a miscellany of all that makes Asia eternal. Formerly called the Land of a Million Elephants, Laos emancipated without renouncing its culture or losing its charm. Surrounded by the Mekong and the Thar River, Luang Prabang, the former royal capital, is still the historic center of Laos. In Laos, the majority of the population is Buddhist. Monks are an integral part of everyday life. Every morning, these monks travel across the city bare feet to fulfill the Tak Bat tradition. This sacred ritual consists of receiving offerings from the most fervent believers. It's usually freshly cooked rice, fruit, vegetables, cookies, as well as small cash contributions in order to notably cover their cell phone bills. This allows the monks to reaffirm their vows of poverty and humility, and the Buddhists to gain spiritual merit. The practice of this religion being guided by the quality of everyday deeds. Kipon is 21. He's been a monk for 3 years.
The people of the villages, they give the food for us, they give rice, candy. So actually we feeling good. And we are happy to offer our chant, pray the Buddha. We pray the Buddha every morning and every evening. And that means, just I think if who understand what we pray, that is very, very good. But just few people can understand because it's Pali Sanskrit language.
The monks only eat twice a day. They're not allowed to eat after 12 noon, so they tend to various household chores. Now that Luang Prabang is a UNESCO World Heritage City, not only have trucks and buses been banned from the historical centre, but the numerous temples and the architectural style of the surrounding houses have been preserved. Wat Mai was built by the King of Siam in 1712. Much like every temple, it features a main Buddha inside, surrounded by several representations of the Buddha in accordance with the rule. The city is calm and even indolent, depending on the weather that can get extremely hot. The early mornings see the streets come to life, notably at the market, where people come to buy fresh produce and enjoy small fried or baked specialities made of rice flour and coconut milk for breakfast. The most informed food enthusiasts can taste rat carcass soup or even grilled scarab beetles. Wat Seng Tong stands along the bank of the Mekong. Its long roofs that almost reach to the ground are typical of the architectural style of the former capital. A superb glass mosaic depicting the Tree of Life decorates the outer wall. This monastery was relatively spared during the last conflicts when the city was ransacked in 1887. The chief of the looters having previously been a monk at this temple. The most spectacular building is the pavilion, which houses the funeral carriage of the ancient kings, and which is brought out to the courtyard during New Year celebrations. Laos is part of what was once called French Indochina. While French is scarcely spoken anymore, the game of pétanque remains very common. In the middle of the monastery district, Savong Bunanchan is a wood sculptor. His favorite themes pertain to Buddhism and Laotian spiritual culture.
I fix and I create wood ornaments shaped as temples. I also make copies based on original sculptures.
Sepak takraw is a team sport that resembles volleyball and which is primarily played in the countries of Southeast Asia, where it's quite popular, notably in Indonesia, Thailand, and, of course, Laos. The game was originally played with a rattan ball, but now mostly uses a plastic ball. The players can either touch or pass the ball 3 times before sending it over the net, back to the opponent's side. When dusk hits the red market, craftsmen start displaying their merchandise. It takes a sharp eye to tell the difference between original local creations and ordinary products imported from Vietnam or China. The general lifestyle that submerges the city by day continues during the night. The history-laden royal palace is a must-see. Nowadays, the Ho Phar Bong represents its most important building. This temple will soon host the Phar Bong, a 33-inch Buddha made of gold alloy to which the city owes its name. The statue is profusely covered with gold leaves, gold being a sacred color. The royal palace evokes the end of Savang Vatthana's reign in 1975, when the monarchy was overthrown by the communists. The royal couple, initially taken to a re-education camp, would perish 2 years later. The nostalgia of this era can be felt in the music of Thit On and his band, who gather to play traditional tunes. Thit plays the erhu, known as the Chinese violin. The other string and percussion instrument is called a kim. Kap Tum is a love song that's performed during Buddhist ceremonies or village festivals.
These compositions are specific to Luang Prabang. Musicians used to perform these tunes to entertain the king at his palace. They're truly something that's typical of Luang Prabang. To this day, we play them during family reunions or even ceremonies.
Much like its Vietnamese neighbor, Laos is now a communist republic, which nevertheless succumbs to the temptations of consumerism. The architectural style is a testament to the French colonial presence, which also marked the only bakery that supplies the city. It produces 3,000 loaves of bread every day. The fact that the city's centre is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site has also enabled the conservation and renovation of certain typical houses of the region, which are built on stilts and entirely made of wood. Traditional dancing holds a special place in Laotian culture. Even though it tends to disappear in families, young girls take classes with teachers.
The hardest thing to teach our students is the tat chief position. The various ways of positioning your hands and moving your fingers. I personally started when I was 6.
In Sang Kong, just outside of Luang Prabang, craftsmen continue to make paper from local essences of wood in order to create various objects. The wood fibres are soaked at length before they're bent. Once the mixture becomes a homogeneous paste in a bath, the preparation is poured through a frame.
I use the tree bark which we have here. First, I dry it up for several days, and then I boil it twice and crush it. After which, I mix it with water and sometimes decorate it before letting it dry in the sun.
In this case, flower petals are added to bring a touch of poetry to this sheet. The generous sun allows the sheets to solidify in a matter of hours. They're now ready to be shaped. People enjoy having lunch at small outdoor restaurants, such as Bolaven Plateau, famous for its Luang Prabang salad.
One of the specialties of Luang Prabang is this salad made with various types of vegetables. We add several ingredients such as peanuts, eggs, tomatoes, cucumbers, and small onions. The dressing is important. We sear some pork meat in it. It's something that's really specific to Luang Prabang.
In the gardens of the royal palace, the Luang Prabang opera continuously plays one of the legends of the country, entitled The Search of Princess Sida, which features gorgeous costumes. North of the former capital, November marks the beginning of the planting season in the paddy and tobacco fields. Water is in no short supply, especially during the rainy season. In Nong Khayan, the Nam U River, an affluent of the Mekong, becomes the connection of choice between the villages. In spite of its small size, it can be very turbulent. Here, the imposing cliffs precede the mountains, making the navigation towards Hong Noi more spectacular. Fishing remains an important resource for the villagers, yet net fishing requires certain skills. On each side of the banks, the river's still surrounded by a dense primary forest. In Banha Sapu, about an hour away from Hong Noi by boat, the village seems timeless. Everyone is peacefully going about their business. Weaving remains an important activity, notably with regard to the making of traditional clothes. In Laotian cuisine, hot peppers are an essential ingredient. Depending on their size, color, and drying mode, the burning sensation to non-informed palates may vary. Rice is the staple food, and in Laos, it's served sticky. People roll it into small balls and eat it with their hands. Prior to that, the rice is dried and sorted, a long and tedious operation. Further along the river, boys who aren't old enough to use dugout canoes are manipulating nets to catch minuscule fish. As we return to Nong Khian, the silence is barely interrupted by Dao's weaving loom. Silk and cotton weaving is a meticulous process. As we head west towards the Thai border, the vegetation is just as dense. In Ban Namia, a Hmong village, farmers sell fresh produce. A little further in the direction of Sayaburi, we arrive at Nam Tien Lake, an artificial lake created in 2004 to enable the irrigation of the surrounding cultivated lands. Hidden on the edge of the forest in Elephantasia, a non-governmental organization dedicated to saving an endangered species, the Asian elephant. Nowadays, the country formerly known as the Land of a Million Elephants involves 1,500 pachyderms, among which 500 are domesticated. Much like everywhere else in Asia, wild elephants are threatened by the deterioration of their natural habitat due to the intensive aspect of the logging industry and the expansion of agricultural crops. Visitors who travel to this site, governed by ecotourism, can learn to ride an elephant under the tutelage of a mahout. The first thing is to learn the key words.
Map. Okay, great.
Pie.
Bye.
Pie.
Bye.
Map long.
Elephantasia came to the conclusion that with only 46 females, 20 years or younger, representing the genetic pool of the country, the future of domesticated Laotian elephants was compromised. The use of elephants on logging sites turns out to be incompatible with their reproduction. They're put through intensive labor and constitute an essential source of income to the mahouts. The nursery is outside of the camp. Elephantasia financially supports the mahouts during the gestation and growth period of the baby elephants, until the latter reach the age of 3. The elephants are not allowed to pull any load or work until they're 10. This 40-year-old female arrived at the center in a state of fright, having probably been the victim of mistreatment. Thanks to a sponsor, the NGO was able to buy her. Kasa, a volunteer veterinarian, is treating her abscess.
So when Mekong was acquired, she had a lot of cutaneous larvae in her body, and when we treated them and they died, they left behind several abscesses in her skin. So we've been treating those abscesses for a few weeks, and now they look good and they're almost closing. So her treatment is almost done. When the elephants come here to the hospital, sometimes they have really big abscesses from the logging equipment or the saddle from the ecotourism equipment.
Oh.
For the other residents that are here this morning, it's bathing time. A moment they truly love, especially in hot weather.
Oh.
All of the experience of the mahouts is usually necessary to get the elephants out of the water. According to Elephantasia, the situation is very serious. The survival of the entire species within 10 to 15 years is at stake. Still in the vicinity of the Thai border is Hongsa, a small town where numerous elephants once worked but are now scarce. For now, the children are headed to school. The market offers the entire local production with a wide selection of green vegetables. One also finds ban bao, which are small brioche rolls stuffed with vegetables or meat. An elephant is working behind the lumber yard. He's pulling huge tree trunks and bringing them to the sawmill. The elephant's trunk is extremely powerful, and he can move or push hundreds of pounds with ease. But work is becoming scarce, not to mention the fact that this lumberyard belongs to a Chinese company that imports its own workforce to load teak wood onto trucks headed straight for China. Spirituality is omnipresent. In this monastery that the monks struggle to upkeep due to a lack of funds, the main building is covered with depictions of religious scenes of great refinement. But in spite of their dedication, it will be challenging for the monks to hold back the wearing effects of time. Into Song, we get back on the Mekong to return to the center of the country. Det has been living on the river with his wife and daughter for about 10 years. He's familiar with all of its traps, swirls, and treacherous currents. Right now, in November, the tide is low, and one must be twice as vigilant to distinguish the rocks in the water. Bangkok Ek is a Hmong village that can only be accessed by boat. Up until about 10 years ago, these villages relied exclusively on the culture of opium, which they exported to Thailand, Vietnam, and China. The inhabitants would also smoke it recreationally and use it by way of traditional medicine. The village shaman is trying to figure out the reasons behind a person's chronic illness. He's here to cast out evil spirits and possibly administer appropriate remedies. By the shore, it's now time to plant peanuts in the sand. During the rainy season, the Mekong can rise by several feet, making the rare few points of reference on the rocks the only way to visually navigate. Det lives on the boat that's both his house and his work tool. Large barges engage in trade with Thailand. The river witnesses perpetual movement. Further south is Vientiane. The capital of Laos since the 16th century has become more visible since the communists ascended to power in 1975. Reminiscent of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, the Patuchai was built in the 1960s and comprises 4 archways of equal width. It's dedicated to the various victories that came during the Indochina War, among which the conflict against the US. At first sight, the presidential palace built during the colonial era doesn't necessarily reflect the post-revolutionary regime under which the country is currently. The building was renovated, and it's between these walls that the government sits to make the major decisions defining the country's policy. Phra That Luang is the country's most important national monument and a symbol of the Buddhist religion and Laotian sovereignty. Today, however, this massive stupa doesn't evoke much of the subtlety with which it was built in 1566. After many successive invasions and lootings, it was awkwardly restored by the French in the early 20th century, before undergoing another renovation 30 years later, this time more conventional. In the morning, the liveliest spot is Ton Kang Kam Market. One finds everything from precious wood to baked goods. The market opens at 4:30 a.m. in order to allow the merchants to cook before the sun and the heat rise. This location is known to offer the best soups, although extremely spicy. Vientiane is replete with tranquil and discreet areas, notably the temples. They're often surrounded by gardens and perfectly suited for relaxation. The monks also have their own school, a place where young people can take on various academic curricula that extend far beyond the learning of Buddhism and range from advanced science to literature. A monk may decide when he wants to leave monastic life. Young people from the countryside come here driven by sincere faith and enticed by the pursuit of higher learning that would otherwise be mostly inaccessible. Ho Pra Kaeo is one of Vientiane's oldest temples. It housed the Emerald Buddha figurine for several centuries before the Thai seized it in 1778. Burned during the Siamese-Lao War in 1828, it was rebuilt in 1936, using the original blueprints recovered by the École Française d'Extrême Orient. The believers go around the temple while praying in front of every statue of the Buddha. Each representation of the Buddha, however different, evokes the same God and requires the same reverence. The medicinal herb market is still very active and features all of the ingredients of traditional medicine. Whether based on roots, mushrooms, or wood fibers, age-long recipes remain highly popular. Wat Si Saket is Vientiane's oldest construction, for it's the only monument that was spared by the Siamese during their incendiary raid in 1828, probably because of its typically Thai style. The internal walls of the gallery are riddled with little nests containing nearly 2,000 silver and ceramic Buddhas. Legend has it that this marabou stork is the guardian of the temple and that it never moves from its post. The location hosts village or family ceremonies. Today, a young man is ordained as a monk and receives gifts and outfits during a collective prayer. The monks take a vow of poverty and they exclusively live off donations from the population. In Vientiane, during the dry season, the banks of the Mekong become quite populated. The water level is so low that small islands of vegetation start to appear. We now head to the south of the country, towards Pakse, the former capital of the kingdom of Champasak, before it was developed under the French administration following 1905. Surrounded by the Mekong and the Don River is Prince Bu Um's palace, built in 1974. Forced to flee the revolution of 1975, the prince would never get a chance to occupy the palace. It has since then been changed into a hotel. Life settles along both rivers. The French bridge across the Zidon River was built in 1924 and is an essential link. Along the river lies Wat Luang, a temple founded in 1935 that doubles as a sangha, or Buddhist monk school. Pakse has become an important trade center between Thailand, nearby Cambodia, and Laos. Its market is always full. The size of the catch in the fish section is so huge that one would think the city is seaside. The fish actually come from the Mekong. Certain species of catfish weigh up to 450 pounds. Tobacco is sold in bulk. It's cheaper to roll your own cigarettes than to buy them in packs. Halfway through the morning, the farmers coming down from the mountains to sell their produce enjoy sharing a dish of mapia made with raw and cooked meat, basil, onions, fish sauce, and, of course, spicy seasonings. Above Pakse, on the Bolaven Plateau at 5,000 feet, the cooler weather is perfect to grow coffee and tea. In spite of its rustic harvesting method, the green tea is excellent. Since pesticides and fertilizers are expensive, the production in most plantations is organic. Although this region was one of the most bombarded during the war, today the Dong Hua Sao Natural Park has well regenerated, as evidenced by the Tat Phan waterfalls, the country's most spectacular, standing nearly 400 feet tall. The road across the plateau is constantly bustling with activity. Numerous families have settled in the highlands to work in coffee plantations. Coffee was introduced by the French in 1920, and Laos has since been specializing in high-end quality, exporting 90% of its production. Out of the 15 to 20,000 tons that are harvested each year, 80% are of the Robusta variety. Thanks to the unique climatic conditions of the Bolaven Plateau, farmers are now turning to Arabica, which is twice as profitable. Small farmers should therefore see their income increase in the future. Once they've been harvested, the coffee beans are rinsed and sorted before being laid out to dry in the sun. Further along the road across the plateau, we reach the village of Ban Ko Pun, populated by the Ketu minority that originates from the mountains of Vietnam. During the day, the men go hunting and also cultivate rice and tobacco. But their living conditions are becoming more and more precarious. They speak a language that's close to the Khmer spoken in Cambodia. One of the distinctive features of this tribe is their quasi-constant smoking of a mixture of tobacco and palm sugar-flavored water. Their addiction is such that the women smoke while they work. The children pick up the habit very early, despite the warnings from various organizations that try to emphasize the health risks. In true animist fashion, the locals reply that if they get sick, the mere sacrifice of a buffalo will take care of it. Further south, we rejoin the Mekong in Muong in order to cross it. From small boats to unstable barges, anything goes to get across the river. For heavier vehicles, 3 old metallic army boats merged together and covered with wood planks serve as a makeshift ferry. In spite of a strong current, the Mekong is calm today. It hasn't rained in a while, and there's no wind. Champasak was originally an independent kingdom, with a sovereign residing in a palace in Pakse. It was annexed to Laos by the French in 1945. Today, the only remains are the funeral stupas of the family of King Nutitam, who died in 1885, and Wat Tong, a temple that the royal family used to frequent. The temple watches peacefully over these pages of history. As we exit Champasak, we arrive at the edge of Wat Pu on the bank of the Mekong. The pathway that leads to the site is shrouded in mystery. It's a religious complex of Khmer architecture and holy Hinduism, the visible parts of which date from the 11th century. The site comprises a shrine to Nandin and his 2 palaces, connected by an ancient road to the site of Angkor, going back to the time when the latter was still the seat of the Khmer Empire. To this day, the site is still the object of digs and restorations, pointing to the existence of an important ancient city towards the shore in the 5th century. Above, a series of slabs and steps lead to other relics and allow a comprehensive view of the site, including 2 lower bares, which are artificial reservoirs serving a religious purpose. We're in Ban Naka Sang to embark where the river is at its widest. During the dry season, an impressive number of small islands appear, creating a real maze known as the 4,000 Islands of the Mekong. During the rainy season, the width of the river can reach almost 9 miles. The 3 biggest islands are inhabited on a permanent basis. Don Kong is 11 miles long. the gigantic meanders of the river, life revolves around fishing and agriculture. The locals grow mostly bamboo and coconuts. There isn't much to do when the southern heat becomes too suffocating. In the last century, in order to pass the various waterfalls that punctuate the Mekong, the French had built a railroad of a few miles in length to move the boats loaded with wood before putting them back in the water on the other side of the falls so that they could continue their southbound journey. The Li Fai Falls are breathtaking. They almost disappear during the rainy season. They matter considerably to the local population, serving as a trap for evil spirits. This is why they're one of the most visited places in all of southern Laos. Even further south, where the Mekong constitutes a natural border with Cambodia, the landscape changes yet again. The river is back to a very wide and calm bed. This is the sanctuary of the Irrawaddy dolphins, famous for their round heads, lacking beaks and small dorsal fins. Sadly, this species is critically endangered, and only a few dozen individuals are left. Their decimation started in 1975, when most of their natural habitat was destroyed to give way to shrimp farming. Pollution also remains a major factor, much like the nets that fishermen continue to set. The Worldwide Fund for Nature is very active in the region to try to raise awareness to the situation. The river never sleeps. At dusk, when the temperature becomes more bearable, the fishermen team up in pairs to set their nets. On the main island of Don Kong, pupils start their day by playing games. At the school cafeteria, crushed ice covered in syrup is all the rage. Bulma takes advantage of the absence of wind to fetch palm sugar syrup. However perilous the ascension, he proceeds wearing flip-flops. As he presses the spathe of the palm tree, the sap rises, allowing to collect a clear juice in bamboo tubes. Once the juice is filtered and boiled for several hours, it turns into a sort of molasses, which, once solidified, will be a real delight. The 4-month-long harvest can yield up to 3 pounds a day.
We use this sugar in coffee and also to cook, for example, noodles. Some people like to add it to grilled beef because it tastes better than traditional sugar.
Rice, an essential food throughout the country, is found in nearly 60 different varieties. Here in the south, it's harvested twice a year, once in November and once in April. We regretfully say goodbye to the enchanting banks of the Mekong, this mythical river, the heart and soul of a country filled with flavors, smiles, grace, languor, and serenity.